Welcome again for another edition of the Aviation Talk Show. The purpose of the Aviation Talk Show is to provide a social media platform for professionals. And we believe the aviation industry can be changed positively, one thought at a time. Today, my guest is a retired Brigadier General of the United States Air Force. His name is Carl Bueller. During his service at the United States Air Force, he has received several medals. He has made many great contributions to the United States Air Force, including leading a team of investigators that led to the discovery of a contaminated oxygen system in Air Force One. Let's welcome retired Brigadier General Carl Bueller. Welcome and thank you for being in the show. I understand you're retired and you're running a very interesting consulting company. Why don't you tell us briefly about that?
Well, thanks, Carl. And first, thanks to you and the audience for the Aviation Talk Show for having me today. It's a true honor. Very, very excited to be one of your guests. Yeah, bottom line is I retired last year, entered the consulting business, and I'm doing a whole bunch of interesting things, have some neat clients. One of my focuses focused on small businesses and how they can impact the Department of Defense in the aviation industry. So it's wonderful.
And what is the name of the new company?
So it's Bueller Consulting. It's a LLC based in Virginia. I do a lot of work in the DC area, so this worked perfect for me.
What made you start this consulting company?
Well, when I went to the general officer retirement class, they listed a whole bunch of different things in terms of what you were going to use to decide what you were going to do post-retirement. And one of those was location. And my wife and I looked at each other and we knew location with aging parent issues and family living in Virginia. We knew we wanted to stay in Virginia, and consulting was the very next step to make that happen. So we call it Life 2.0, and we're super excited to be in it.
I'm sure we have a lot of viewers out there who are running a small business and perhaps some entrepreneurs, and they probably want to know how they can do business with the Department of Defense.
Yeah. So there's a couple things. I would offer for the folks that actually manufacture or produce a product to get familiar with what DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency, offers. They have a system called DIBS, which is the Defense Logistics Agency Internet Bid Board System, and that's where companies that manufacture can scour their databases and see what parts are needed. Some people are aware about that, but many companies, including some of my clients, weren't aware and recently have just had their first sales with DLA. So a great opportunity to have products that you may not know the DoD needs. It's a very good portal to get your products highlighted.
Okay. Like I said, we have perhaps entrepreneurs and their business could be in the area of service, as you mentioned, products, and in aviation, in commercial aviation, they have new products that they want to use in commercial aircraft. Now, how difficult is it to apply? Is there any limitation as to what products you can apply for, what service?
Yeah, so for DLA, that's its own mechanism, but one of the things that is really, really exciting that the DoD is doing right now, and I'll talk more about the Air Force efforts, but it's through the Small Business Innovation Research, which is called SBIR. The Air Force recently created an organization called AFWorks. It stood up just 2 years ago, and they are issuing contracts, some contracts within 15 minutes. And later in the talk show, not just issuing the contracts, but also making the first installment payment on a credit card to your account. We just recently had a pitch day in New York City, and in a moment, I'd like to share you some of the numbers from that.
Okay, so as an applicant, maybe you can walk us through and what are these steps?
Yeah, great. First of all, what I'd like to do is just read you kind of the mission description from what AFWorks is all about, and so your viewers will be able to understand exactly. It says, established in 2017 by the Secretary of the Air Force and reporting to the Vice Chief of Staff, AFWorks is a catalyst for agile Air Force engagement across industry, academia, and non-traditional contributors to create transformative opportunities and foster an Air Force culture of innovation. The ultimate aim is to solve problems and enhance the effectiveness of the Air Force. And what they do is they enable thoughtful, deliberate, ground-up innovation across the Air Force. We do this through an innovative approach that combines startup agencies, with urgency with the largest pool of motivated talent in the world to uncover opportunities to improve Air Force capabilities and to connect and engage the stakeholders and facilitate outcomes. So that's a short way of basically saying, if you have a technology or you have something that you believe the Air Force needs, rather than having to answer a specific call for a specific need, you can offer up your technology and then see if there's Air Force stakeholders and Air Force customers that could benefit from your technology. And it's absolutely fascinating. Let me just share a couple numbers with you. So a couple weeks ago, the Air Force had a pitch day up in New York City, and one of the contracts they awarded in 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes. And that's extremely short when you compare it to the average 3 months that it usually takes the service to award a contract to a small business. One of the quotes from an individual was, "It was faster to get an Air Force contract than it was to get a beer in New York City." So, one of my clients was there, walked in, gave the pitch, and in less than 15 minutes received an Air Force contract, and his company received a initial payment. So that's how quick it is. And sometimes there are needs that you can read on the news or in the internet, or there are needs that you can just know that the military needs. But sometimes it's a technology, and rather than fulfilling a need, what you do is you find a customer maybe that can use your technology, and that's the exciting thing.
Well, let me ask you, 3 minutes. So how is that? Is this happening live? The applicant is in front of a committee or a panel of the Department of Defense, or is it done virtually? How is that done?
You're exactly right. It was a 10-minute pitch. That's what the limit was. Then there was 5 minutes Q&A. A small council of folks got together. If they liked the idea, you went into a room, they handed you a contract before you stepped out the door. That's how quick it was. Everything's been streamlined. This has been a huge focal point of the Air Force for the last couple of years, and we've got some very, very innovative people that are in the Air Force and the Department of Defense that are realizing there's thousands and thousands and thousands of companies out there that have all these technology and all these innovative ways of doing things, but maybe the Air Force doesn't know what to ask. Maybe the Air Force didn't even know it exists. It's as you always hear the term, the unknown unknowns or the known unknowns. So this is something that, I as a 29 member of the military, people could come talk to me about something, and I go, I never even would have thought about that. So, not a single person or a single organization has all the best ideas. You get these motivated entrepreneurs that would like to do service or like to, do business with the military. And by the way, it's a different way to serve the company. So it's a fantastic opportunity for the companies and the military.
Well, this is really incredible. So basically, they've come up with a way to streamline the process. You're in front of the Department of Defense right there, and then you present your product or your service, and decision is made right there on the spot.
Right there on the spot. And that was through a event at New York City called Pitch Day. But for those people that can't make a pitch day, and there are going to be some future pitch days coming up, for those people, they have what's called broad area announcements. And the first window the next window opens up, I believe it's the 19th of April, where it opens up for a pre-solicitation. And what you have is you put together a package, you make sure you have a CAGE code and a DUNS code, and you're registered in the SAMS database. You submit it, and it's kind of a proof of concept is what the Air Force calls it. And you're eligible for up to $50,000. And then you have 90 days to find Air Force customers and Air Force stakeholders that want/need your technology, and they can explain to the AFWERX organization how it would help them solve a need. Maybe it's a need they didn't even know about. I mean, some of my clients currently have fulfilled needs in the Air Force that the Air Force did not ask for. But once the Air Force saw the technology, it's like, wow, I want a piece of that. And then, like I said, it's up to $50,000, and you have 90 days to do your proof of concept. After that, there's a whole myriad of different things you can do, but the base concept after in phase 2, it's open call for topics, and you can get up to $750,000 in 15 months, and that's where you take your technology, you work with the Air Force, you adapt the technology to Air Force specific needs. And it's a great opportunity. Let me share real quick, Carl, some numbers of what the Air Force was able to do. And this is just in the last couple of weeks. In a 10-day period, the Air Force released 190 small business innovation research contracts, which totaled $3.5 million for the initial payout. And the remaining payout, I believe, is somewhere in the $8 million range that the Air Force will pay out to these companies. So you're talking about, yeah, here's the actual numbers. 3.5 million was awarded at the pitch day, and that's going up to 8.75 million worth of payments through the installments.
So basically the first phase, or what they call the proof of concept, that's up to $50,000 on that second, that other event, right? Not the pitch day, but on the second event that you were talking about. What was it called again?
Right, those are called broad area announcements.
Broad area announcement. In the broad area announcement, or is that also true for the pitch day, where the initial award is for proof of concept up to 50,000, right?
At the pitch day, you've already convinced the Air Force. You actually enter the phase one right then, and then you have a set number of days. I don't quite know the exact number of days. That hasn't been passed along to me yet.
And then on the phase two, after you pass the proof of concept, is there a limit to how much phase two can go, or how much funding you could request for?
For the small business innovation research phase twos that AFWERX is doing for the open concept, where dual use technology, where something has a capability of being used in the commercial market and in the military, those are currently, as I said, $750,000. And there's some rules here, so this doesn't apply to everybody, but there is also an option being provided right now where you can get matching. So if a Air Force agency gives you money up to $325,000, their skin in the game, then you can get a 4-to-1 match on that money on top of. So it could be very, very lucrative, and really have a small business that has a technology that needs that money to get over the hump. It can really, really be a big, big help for that company, and ultimately for the Air Force. That's the reason why they do it.
Now, you said 4-to-1 matching? Is that what?
Yes. 4-to-1 if the money comes from an Air Force agency. If the money comes from like venture capitalists, I believe it's 1-to-1. And like I said, there's some really fine rules and some,
The applicant is not matched, specifically with the Air Force, but also an outside company. You mentioned an investment firm or a capital.
Yeah, it's kind of complex, but there's two types, and only certain companies are eligible for this. And it would take a while to walk you through that, but it's suffice to say that a company that applies and gets a phase 1 SBIR to go into phase 2, as long as they meet the criteria, if they find an Air Force organization that's willing to put up its own money, then there can be up to a 4-to-1 match on top of the grant money where that company can use. If the money is acquired during that period from a venture capitalist firm, it's a lower match, but still it is more than just the grant by itself. So a lot of companies are interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, a lot of companies are just ecstatic that they have the potential to go after $750,000. You take a company that, they can now turn on the lights, they can produce product, they can adapt. I have a couple of my clients that are doing small adaptations of their technology that have absolutely no use, their terms, in the civilian market. But for the military, it's a game-changing modification that can be done. And sometimes it's just understanding what the Air Force and the DoD is trying to do. It's fascinating watching the companies modify their products in order to get them, into the Air Force market.
Earlier, I said there's entrepreneurs and small business owners, and I'm sure some of the questions that's going on in their mind is, well, I'm in commercial aviation, right? And, you're talking about military. So I suppose they can figure a way to adapt the service or the technology, the product, from commercial aviation to military, because after all, military also owns a lot of aircraft, right? So for example, someone may be into airplane cleaning, and maybe they have a technology where robotics could be applied to clean aircraft, right? So they can apply that to military aircraft as well, right? I mean, that's just one of those commercial aircraft cabins. So that's military. So someone may have a way to perhaps automate inspections and things like that, right? So there's no limit to what they could do for the military application.
I think you said it best, Carl. There's no limit. You know, some people think innovation is about multi-million-dollar ideas and multi-year programs. One of the technologies that I'm engaged in, the product's $8,000, but we believe that the Air Force could use these at almost every single base. I won't talk about the technology of the company, but $8,000 is not a large product cost. Some of my other technologies are under $5,000. So now if you're at a base, you actually do have the capability of buying this technology and making your job easier, making a bigger impact to the operational effectiveness of your mission, helping prevent occupational injuries, or like you said, you know, some maintenance or logistics tracking databases that can help automate, or a way to clean aircraft. There's so many different things, and so anybody who's in the aviation, whether it's on the aircraft side, all the way down to support equipment, or anything to do with the people that have to implement the task at hand, if you can think of it, I would recommend companies go out and start applying for these SBIRs, because it is a way of getting the technology at least reviewed. And what does it hurt? You fill it out, maybe you get some feedback, and you didn't get the grant, but at least you receive some feedback from the Department of Defense of whether your technology, you know, was useful at that period or not.
Yeah, now my gears are turning, and you know, I'm of course specialized in commercial aircraft, in particular cabins, and one of the, you know, for me, one of the greatest challenge and frustrations, actually, the fact that today we have a lot of documentations. For example, you know, aircraft flight manuals, component maintenance manuals, illustrated parts catalog. When a mechanic goes to an aircraft, you know, they're dealing with books, right? Catalogs, documents. In today's artificial intelligence, virtual reality, we should be able to automate a lot of these manual documents.
You're spot on. And some of those, like in that specific instance that you're talking about with virtual reality, augmented reality, sometimes rather than having an open call for ideas, the military will actually come out and say, I want a product that has the capability like you just described. And think about the product you just described in the training environment. Why do I have to tie up an asset? I only have maybe 14 airplanes on my ramp, and I need 7 or 8 of them to do missions that day, and others are in phase and undergoing, you know, repair actions. Well, why do I need to tie up an aircraft to do maintenance training when I can do it with virtual reality or augmented reality? Think about what that does just to your capability right then. Think about if you're an airline. You take a jet. If the jet's not flying, you're not making money. So let's take all the things that prevent that airplane from flying, and if you can do them in another manner, you've just increased the effectiveness of that operation, military or civilian.
Perhaps you could just quickly summarize for those who are interested in engaging and doing business with the Department of Defense. Can you give us like a quick overview and describe,
Yeah.
you know, just in a few steps what have to be done, or how do they go about this?
Yeah, what I'm first going to do, I don't know if the viewers can see this, but this is I just printed this out this morning. This is the schedule and the timeline for the upcoming small business innovation research pre-release, open top, or when they open and when they close. So right now, if a company is interested, April 19th of this year are going to be the pre-release, and then they open up on May 20th and it closes on June 19th. So when it opens and closes, it's about 1 month time frame. These are actually the schedules for the small business innovation research for the submission. Let me give you a quick website that maybe your viewers could use. Just want to make sure I get it exactly correct here. Yeah, it's so it's www.afworks.af.mil, and AFWORKS is spelled AFWERX. So if people are interested, companies are interested in doing business with the Air Force, I highly recommend checking out that website and getting ready to apply for one of these upcoming small business innovation research grants. And who knows, in a span of a few months, you could have a contract with the United States Air Force. Also, be on the lookout for upcoming pitch days. The Air Force has publicly stated they will be having some pitch days in other cities and around some other bases. I've heard talk on open media that where some bases are looking at having pitch days at different bases. I can't validate that, but be on the lookout for that. I mean, bottom line is it's a small investment by the United States Air Force and the DoD to get access to technology they may or may not know about. So I highly recommend. Also, you can go to the CIBR website, which has a lot of information on the rules. There's a very, very good training guide for how CIBR works, but that is sbir.defensebusiness.org.
Okay.
So sbir.defensebusiness.org.
Right. These websites you described, will they be able to find information on the pitch day, regarding the pitch day, as well as the broad media day? Or
yes, the CIBR.defensebusiness.org website, that they advertise the list, and also the AFWorks website has the list of the upcoming calls. And once a pitch day, the next pitch day actually executes, you'll see a lot of different advertisements on it. Let me just give you another real quick fact on the pitch day here. 242 contracts worth $75 million is what the Air Force awarded. But at the specific pitch day, it was 51 out of 59 companies. So 59 companies showed up, 51 of them left with a contract and an initial payment before they left that day.
That's amazing.
So, and then when you compare that to the previous 3-month average, where it used to take a small business to get under contract, and I have to tell you too, anybody who's done any business with the government, contracting can be tough. It can be a little bit onerous, difficult. Sometimes the sites aren't linked. They've really taken a look at this, and I have to applaud their efforts. Is it perfect? No, nothing's perfect out the get-go, but they are working very, very hard on it. A lot of my clients come out and they just applaud, and they just go, Carl, I have to tell you, this is so much better than it was 2 to 3 years ago when I used to apply for government contracts. And I go, what do you mean? And they tell me stories about multiple emails, 3 to 4 months not knowing, onerous amounts of data they had to provide. Now it's fairly streamlined. It's not easy and it's not simple, but it's fairly streamlined. As long as, like I said, you get your cage code, you get your DUNS number, and you're registered in SAM, then you just start the paperwork, and it is exponentially easier.
Since you've started this business, or since you've started this consulting business, how many, I'm just curious, how many companies, individuals have you helped and making their dreams come to fruition?
Yeah, so I have a myriad of clients. 7 of them are involved with CIBR. But what I ended up doing was, because when you leave the Air Force as a general officer, you're not allowed to, for 1 year, contact the Air Force. So what I found was I needed to have people that could help me in this. And so I signed partnership agreements with 18 different people, a couple consulting firms, and they go out, they're the ones who contact the Air Force and talk to the folks like that. And then I do a lot of the strategic and tactical engagement. But at the end of the July timeframe, I'll be able to engage directly.
All right.
But yeah, we have a pretty high success rate. One of my partners likes to say every one of our clients, is on the path to success. And we've gotten some really, really good reviews. We're extremely, extremely happy.
If our viewers are interested in getting some assistance, I can go ahead and maybe refer them to you.
Yeah, that would be great. What I like to tell people is, if I don't have the capability, I have a whole network of consultants. If it's something that's not in my wheelhouse, I'll try to find them a name or two of somebody that they can contact. At the end of the day, when you're a retired Air Force, you still bleed blue, and you want the best for the Air Force. So if there's a technology and it has the ability to help the Air Force, but it's not something like that I have the capability, I'll be able to try and go out and find them help.
Okay. Well, this is a really fun and exciting time today. I really learned a lot. I'm I'm surprised how the Air Force have streamlined the entire process. So this is, new information for me today, and I hope that our viewers probably feels the same about this. So, thank you again for coming to this show, and I hope that you could join us again, especially if you have some new updates. I'd like viewers to know more about, any changes or any new information you can provide us. So why don't you, spend a few seconds, maybe just summarize and give us your final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. First of all, thanks for doing this. I consider you one of the thought leaders in the aviation industry. The sheer fact that you're taking the time and the energy to do this, to connect people, your energy that you have on LinkedIn is just fascinating. I mentioned earlier, you can be a thought leader, but a thought leader puts sparks and ignites a flame in other people. So I think you've gone a long way, and you're in at the early stages, groundbreaking. You're very analogous to what AFWorks is trying to do. Get in early, streamline, connect people, and make a difference. So one, I want to applaud you and thank all of your viewers for watching this, and greatly looking forward to seeing you when I get out your way next time.
All right. Everybody's learned a lot of information from that. And going forward, I hope you guys consider doing business with the Department of Defense.